I've been wanting to do a Christmas themed build ever since I started this channel, so now's a good time to get around to it, I guess. I didn't really have any plans in particular, I just wanted it to be some kind of Christmas scene with as much detail and interesting things to look at as possible. To start this scene, we're going to be starting with the focal point, which is a Christmas tree. Trees are very simple to build, but because this one is so big and I wanted it to be so detailed, I did it in this way where I divided the tree into 8 sections, built the branches in one section, and then used the revolve command from Archeon to revolve that one section 8 times to duplicate it. Which looks like it was a huge time saver, but really it took me forever to build those branches. I probably could have simplified it and used fewer branches. It didn't need to be that detailed. But this was already the second time I was redoing it, so I wasn't about to make it a third. Next I started working on the girl organic who was just kind of sitting in my scene. I approached this build kind of differently from some of my others where I was just thinking of different assets and just kind of piecing them together. So I started off by building just lots of separate assets and not even building them all the way, but I would build them part of the way and then kind of piece them together, and then once I got them kind of how I wanted them to look, then I would finish them and color them. But for now, she's just going to look like this. And like I said, I just started going around and building assets, starting with the larger stuff first and then gradually working into the smaller details. Some pieces, like some of the furniture pieces, I would just go ahead and texture all the way. But if you ever want to tackle a large build that has lots of pieces, it is really nice to be able to just skip around from one thing to another and not really stick with one area for too long so you don't get too bored. It helped me see the build as a whole rather than focusing on one part at a time and getting it completely finished. So then I was kind of working on just the larger basic things, getting those done, and then gradually working my way down to the smaller details. I do apologize for the annoying flicker in the background caused by the 1.16 replay, but I was able to resolve this in later clips. You'll just have to bear it for now. So far we have the furniture, we have the girl sitting somewhere, and we have a tree, and now we have a tree skirt. So now we need a nativity scene, one that is large enough for us to actually be able to build the details in Minecraft. So we're gonna have to make it a little bit larger than what your average nativity scene would be. For now, I'm just starting with a stable, again, just so I can see how it's going to fit in the build and I can shift things around as needed. So anyone who's familiar with those little Christmas villages, that is the idea that I wanted for this corner of the room, where you're gonna have the Christmas village on the table, but it's also going to be kind of spilling onto the ground. So I wanted to do a mixture of indoors and outdoors, so I have a little layer of terrain or snow that's going to be the base for the Christmas village down there. So it's meant to look like it's all blending together along with that tablecloth. You'll also see some glitches in these replays where you'll see floating objects or duplicates of objects. Just ignore those. I could not get those all to go away. It's just a glitch with 1.16. Anyway, I had a little bit of extra space between the chair and the tree on this side, and I could have done a number of things, but I went with a grandfather clock, and in the end I think it turned out nice because it added that little bit of height to kind of balance out the tree so the tree wasn't sticking out so much. I could have done a fireplace instead, but I don't think it would have fit as well now that I look back on it. Because I know the tree is going to take me a long time to do, I would just revisit it every once in a while when I needed a break from the rest of the room. So now it's time to string some lights on the tree. That's the next step, and this took me a lot longer than I was expecting it to because I had to do all the lights by hand. At least the star was easy. Moving around again, time to work on some buildings on the table to get an idea of what I want them to look like. I absolutely do not enjoy doing structures, but I certainly gave myself plenty of time to practice in this build. Why do I do this to myself? Again, there were some glitched blocks in this clip, you'll just have to ignore those. Let's move on and build something fun, like a little dog. This was actually my favorite part of the entire build, and kind of a spur-of-the-moment decision. I wasn't planning on doing this originally, but I'm like, I want to add a dog. It needs to go right there. There was a room for it, so that's why I made it. And I have no regrets, he's so cute! Thanks Google Images for all your inspiration. Now we are back to the tree again. If you do not recognize any of these ornaments that I'm making, maybe you do not watch all of my time lapses. So I think you get the general idea. I work on one thing, go to the next, go back to the thing I was working on 5 hours ago. It's just an endless cycle of jumping around the build. Now we're starting to add details, finish texturing things, finishing all those houses, which took me forever to do. It took me about half an hour per house on average. Anyway, that's aside from the point. The point is, this build is very detailed. I tried my best to record as much of it as I could. Now, another idea I had for this build was I wanted the girl who's sitting in this room to kind of be just imagining things, like her imagination is going crazy because, you know, it's Christmas and there's all kinds of pretty things to look at. So I had a flying train going around the tree, just kind of to represent her imagination and what she might be seeing. At the end of the build, I also made it weathering inside with snow blowing everywhere, and that's again just to give it a more magical feeling. Once I was finished with all the little details, then I just had a few larger details to take care of, such as the rug, which if you ever want to know how to do something like this, it's really simple. If you create a pattern of some sort, then you're just going to select around the whole thing and copy it. Then you're just going to paste that copied object onto a different surface, and it will automatically create a pattern out of your copied object. And thus concludes this Christmas build, which took me well over 48 hours. I wish it didn't take that long, but maybe it was worth it. You can let me know. There's not much else to say other than I hope you have a very Merry Christmas, and I will see you again sometime.